We are seeing an increase in vulnerabilities, exploits in server systems, in plugins, in code in general. Today, I'm going to discuss that. It's a mindset episode, so I'm then going to talk about what we need to be thinking about and our mindset in keeping ourselves safe and secure, and what to do when, not if, the worst thing happens. And that's get hacked, by the way. The worst thing happening is getting hacked. Stay tuned. I make all this connect, I promise.
Welcome to Rise and Shine, your daily business tech boost with me, Charly Leetham. If you're a small business owner looking to simplify technology and get real, actionable advice from someone with 35 years of IT experience, you're in the right place. Every episode, I'll dive into tools and systems like email, CRM, marketing and tracking, and I'll break them down into bite-sized tips you can use straight away. Your time is valuable, so let's get straight to the point. It's time to work smarter, not harder.
Rise and Shine. It's your dose of business tech inspiration with me, Charly Leetham. Episode number 738. It is Mindset Monday, but I'm going to do this slightly differently. I'm actually going to do this through the lens of a Firewall Friday. And the reason I want to do that is because we're seeing an uptick in vulnerabilities being discovered in our online systems. And I think it's worthwhile understanding the security view on that before we actually move to what our mindset needs to be around it. So I'm going to go through a few things, going to explain a few of the vulnerabilities we've seen, and then I'm going to get into the mindset that I think we should have as business owners moving forward. All right, so as I said, there has been an uptick in vulnerabilities being discovered in the last few weeks. Now, part of that might be AI helping people probe software for weak spots far faster than any person ever could. That's not proven, by the way. That's just my gut feel on it. I don't think I'm too far wrong, mostly because if we're looking at the vibe coding space, we're seeing people being able to code faster. We also know, or I also know, that the AIs are able to look at code and tell me where my holes are. Now, I don't think they're perfect on it, but I think they can do that. So we've got AI helping people write code. Why wouldn't it be helping them find the weaknesses in the code? That's just my gut feel for it. I also think that this is just the old adage that I come back to all of the time, and that's if you build a better mousetrap, the mice get smarter, and they're developing tools using AI. That's part of it, but they're also developing tools that just make this easier for them in the long term, in the long run. What sort of things are we seeing? I'm going to go through the sorts of things we're seeing and what's been happening. So in the last few weeks, when I say few weeks, I mean probably 2 weeks by the time this goes out, maybe 3. Everest Form Pros was handing attackers and admin accounts through a form filled. Sounds terrible. It's not great. They fixed it, but it's not great. They offer, so that form plugin offers a calculation function. So someone can enter a formula in a field in text and it gets calculated. Now, when it is submitted, it's using a PHP function that executes what is imported, basically input, basically as text, which makes it live code in a way. Now, some people are going to come back to me and say, that's not technically true. No, you're right. It's not technically true, but it's an easier way of describing it. So if you put in the code if you put in the formula in a text field, it goes into the PHP, the code that runs your web server underneath it, and it has to evaluate that code as text and then execute the function that you've put in. The problem with that is that the function itself didn't sanitize, or the form plugin itself didn't sanitize that particular input. I'm not sure whether it did the other inputs, but it didn't sanitize that particular input. Now, that means it wasn't checking that the input didn't contain potentially dangerous or malicious entries. We call that an injection attack, pretty much. It is a well-known vector for attack, and we've got lots of long-standing protocols about how we write code to protect against it. Now, sometimes we don't realize that that particular thing can happen on a particular function we've coded. Maybe that's what's happened here. The point is that it was there. So hackers were able to use that field input to have the WordPress user creation function executed. What that did was it created them an admin user and gave them admin access to the site through the form itself. They didn't have to log in. They didn't have to have a admin access to the hosting provider, to the site itself. They could just use the form to create the admin user themselves. It happens. It's not great. Got to know about it. The second one is what we would probably call a supply chain compromise. This one's it's a little bit of a longer bow to draw on this one, but it does highlight how a supply chain compromise works. And that's Opt-in Monster, which is a really popular plugin to get people to lead management plugin. Now, this plugin loads part of its code from the vendor's servers every time a page opens. And I'm going to say, just as an aside, that's one reason why I don't like these types of plugins, because they go out to other people's servers and pull code off of it. Slows your site down. That's my main reason for it. This is another reason I'm not overly fond of it. Attackers actually compromised the Opt-in Monster's servers, and they edited the centralized files, which were then loaded to every site that called them. So it doesn't matter that you were updating your site. It doesn't matter that you've got your site nice and clean. Opt-in Monster was going out and pulling back compromised code. Again, these are the things that happen, and it's important to us to understand that this is how these things happen. Now, that compromised code didn't get executed until an admin user logged in, and once it was executed, it created a hidden admin account for the attacker. Fantastic. Now, Opt-in Monster fixed that, of course. They fixed the files centrally. So the next time the plugin went out and pulled down the new code, it pulled down the clean code. Still, it happened. Gravity SMTP, it kind of breaks my heart because Gravity Forms does such a good job at their code, and it just goes to show how easy it is for things to go wrong. So Gravity SMTP gave away API keys to the email to your email on request. How did that happen? Well, that plugin uses what we call a test endpoint. It can be used by the admins on the site and the plugin itself to test that things are working. It has a test that says, are you an admin? And now, it doesn't ask you if you're an admin. It checks that the person running the code has the right set of privileges. Unfortunately, that was hard-coded to yes. I can see exactly how that happened. You're trying to test something. You don't want to log in as an admin while you're testing it. It's in your sandbox environment. No problem here. Just forgot to get flipped back. Not great. I'm assuming that that's the case. It's not great, but it happened. Now, what that means, though, is that any request, regardless of where it originated, returned to that particular endpoint, returned the site's full system report. That report included the live keys for whatever mail service the site used or uses to send email. What does that mean? Well, once the attacker got those keys, they were able or are able to use your service and send email as you. Because they're using your service and they're sending email as you, the email passes all the spam filters and all the DKIM checks and all of those things that we need to make sure that email is actually legitimate, because it is genuinely coming from your account. The upshot of this is even once that flaw was fixed, users now need to go back through and regenerate all their API keys or all their login details so that they can cut the attackers off. The final one that I'm going to talk about is a little different, and it's not a WordPress plugin. This one is actually a cPanel plugin, and I'm bringing it up to highlight that this is what we're seeing pretty much across the board. It's not just cPanel, it's not just WordPress. I'm seeing it in a lot of things. But the Lightspeed cPanel plugin let one user account take over the whole server. Now, you might say to me, well, Charly, the user account owns the server. What's the problem? Well, they don't. If you're on a shared server, the user account doesn't own the whole server. The user account owns the resources in that particular cPanel account that they've been given. It doesn't own the whole server. To own the whole server means that you will be able to see everyone's account on that server. Typically you can access everyone's data on that server once you've got that level of access. Now, I also need to highlight this or underscore this one with that we don't have much information on it at the moment. Maybe we will, but here's what we do know. The function to switch redis caching on and off for an individual cPanel account runs with root privileges. That's not unusual. Some plugins require root privileges to run. The problem is that function didn't check whether the individual user trying to run that function was actually allowed to run things as root. Now, what that means, if you have listened to any of the episodes that I've done, I speak a lot about the principle of least access in security. You give people the minimum amount of access that they need when you're setting them up on a system to do their job, so that if they do get compromised or something goes wrong, you're not giving out too much of the house to them, basically. In this case, it didn't matter. You could give the user itself as little access as you wanted. The fact is that plugin, that underlying plugin, if they knew how to access it, said, yep, you can now become root on the site. Now, all that required is to have a legitimate user account on cPanel. It might be a hacked account. It might be a compromised account. Or it might be that a hacker's gone, well, we're going to pay the $5 a month or the $10 a month or the $20 a month, because then we're going to get full root access and we can do what we want. Okay. I also just want to quickly, before I hit the mindset stuff, talk about what the supply chain flaw raises and the issues that we need to consider there. In the case of Opt-in Monster, for example, it's a minimal, it's not a minimal access issue. But what happened there was it could be updated centrally and rolled out dynamically. Okay, they found the flaw, they fixed, there's that fly. They stopped the access and they fixed up the code, and then they rolled that code got distributed as soon as the next page loaded. The new code came down. Fine, cool. We still had to go and clean up whatever the fallout from that was. That's cool. However, in the case of a small code library that's included in base software, so when software is written these days, often we'll go, oh, we need a library. We'll need a set of functions, a library, a set of functions that does this. Oh, here's a prepackaged set. This is actually widely used by many, many developers in the industry. We'll just take a copy of that, normally from GitHub. It might be somewhere else, but normally from GitHub, and put it into the code, and we'll call those the functions in that library within our own code. Now, when that small code library becomes compromised, the issue becomes more salient because it may stay undetected for a while. That's the first part. Once it's detected and the information starts to get out there, it requires developers to update the code library and push out a patch. And then it requires site owners or people who are using that software to actually download and install that patch. So in the case, a supply chain flaw, a supply chain compromise, in my mind, is a little more far-reaching than just a standard hack. Okay. Now, here's the mindset shift that I want you to take with you. It's not if you're going to get hacked anymore, but when. And it's been that way for a very long time. Look, maybe you won't get hacked, but the odds certainly aren't in our favor of that. I think it's much safer for us to say, when we get hacked, what measures do we have in place to mitigate the fallout and recover from it? Here's some questions that I'm going to ask you to ask yourselves and think about. Are you encrypting your data at rest? Are you requiring strong logins and multi-factor authentication? Do you have backups? Have you tested those backups? Do you de-identify personal data? Do you limit the amount of personal data that is stored with your systems? What is your reporting process and policy for when it happens? Are you regularly doing your updates? And if you are regularly doing your updates, do you do them immediately or do you wait? Because both approaches have merits. Waiting a couple of days after a major update or even a week after a major update might be okay, because sometimes those security flaws get found really quickly. A patch comes out and then you can install that. But if it's patching some major security flaws, maybe you should be updating immediately. That brings me to the last point here is, do you read the notices that are put out by your providers? Because those notices are a wealth of information if you can decipher them. And it will give you an idea as to whether you really want to do that update immediately or whether you want to wait. But if you're not reading the notices and if you're not doing your updates, you are just increasing the possibility that you will end up being compromised sooner rather than later. At least that's my take on it. I hope someone pushes back a little so we can discuss it. Push back respectfully so we can discuss it. But I think it's a good mindset for us to take out of all of this. It's not if we're going to get hacked. It's when we're going to get hacked. And it's how we respond to it and what we have in place to recover from it that makes the difference. What do you guys think? I would love to know. There's a play again. Leave comments wherever you are watching or listening to this episode. If it was useful, if it was insightful, if it was, I don't know, whatever, if you found it good, please give the episode a like and maybe share it with a friend or two or some other business owners. If you haven't already subscribed to the channel, please do so now and ring that notification bell. I know from my stats that there's a number of people who watch these episodes that haven't subscribed yet. And if you want to subscribe, I really, really would appreciate it. And finally, if you guys need help with any of this, if you're not sure what's happening on your site, if you're not sure you're getting your updates done, if you're not sure your servers are being maintained, any of that, that's the sort of thing I can help you with. I can go through, do audits. I already manage a whole heap of customers and I keep their servers up to date. I keep their websites up to date, the software on their websites up to date. I find these things and I action them as quickly as we humanly can when we need to do them. You can find out more about that. If you've got something you need specific help with, you can always book a 30-minute breakthrough session with me. Go to askcharlyleetham.com and click the bright pink button in the top right-hand corner. I had to think pink, purple button in the right-hand corner. If you've already used your free breakthrough session, it's one nasty fly. It's one breakthrough session per person / company. I'm sure you understand that. If you've already booked your session and had it and you want to work with me, please get in touch. I would love to speak to you about how we can work together on an ongoing basis and what shape that will take, how that will look, that is of benefit to both of us, because my success comes from your success. All right, guys, that's it for today. I will see you for Walkthrough Wednesday in a couple of days. In the meantime, be safe and think about all of these things that I've raised today. Bye.
Hey there, thanks so much for tuning in to Rise and Shine, your daily business tech boost. I hope today's episode gave you some actionable insights that will make your business tech work smarter for you. If you found value, be sure to subscribe, leave a review, and share it with other small business owners who could use a daily boost. For more tips, tools, and resources, visit www.askcharlyleetham.com. Until next time, keep rising, keep shining, and let's make tech simple together.